what does it mean to you? When I say only God knows what is good, what does that mean to you? Now, there is a story that I think represents very clearly when we allow God to define our reality, define our life, define our circumstances. And that's the story of David. In 2 Samuel chapter 16, there is a story about David. And on this, we can say that uh, his this was a bad circumstance for David because, well, his son was leading a revolution against him and coming to kill him. Now, most of us will pass judgment and determine that that was a very bad circumstances to have your son trying to kill you. And to make matters worse, a relative of the previous king, Shimei, had been nursing some serious resentment over the king, and especially since David had been anointed king. As David was leaving Jerusalem, Shimei came out and began throwing rocks at and cursing David. Now, in those days, insulting a king was an automatic death sentence, so much like it is sometimes in some places here in Asia. Still, so imagine this Shimei here in 2 Samuel 16 comes out and starts throwing rocks and cursing the king, David. And it's obvious that everybody will say, well, he is going to die. He is not going to be really around much. It just so happened that David's bodyguards were right there, and they turned to King David and asked to be given the honor of whipping out his disrespectful jerk from existence. So, surprisingly here, David just said, steady, man. This could be God. God might be telling Shimei to do this. Leave him alone. And this is something interesting here in 2 Samuel, how David turns to his bodyguards and looking at somebody that is obviously doing something that is wrong, something that is not right, and is hurting David. Now he says, well, this is something that I need to take a step back and say, wait, don't harm him. Maybe it's God telling Shimei, telling him to do this. Leave him alone. David was able to maintain his cool. He was able to maintain the peace, and consequently, he did not do something that could have had serious consequences for him, or something that he will regret later on. So this is something interesting here that I find is a big lesson for us. It was a big lesson for me, at least, because when I see that David, looking at somebody that was doing something wrong to him, obviously wrong, and he had the power to make it stop, and he had people that were willing to make it stop, and everybody will agree. Everybody there will have said it's okay to go and get Shimei out of the way. But David, instead of allowing himself to be carried by his emotions, or carried by the people around him, or carried by whatever instance or decisions he had, he allowed himself to say, wait, stand by, men. This could be God. God might be telling Shimei to do this. Leave him alone. And throughout our lives, we have learned that we need to really step up and do something. I was, even in my own life, I was somebody that would say, well, everything has a solution. If I am working or if I am doing something, there's a solution for everything. And I can determine if something is good or bad. And if people around say something bad or say something negative, I can define what that negative is. And if everybody around me will agree that something is wrong or something is right, then I can follow through with that. I allow other people oftentimes to define my reality. I allow myself to define my reality. I allow my thinking, my experience, what I think that I know to define my reality. And that is important, my friends. You that are here with us tonight, join online. I have staff on Zoom. I have a few people on a different social media, social networks, and I have Nsaba Dan too, also on my Instagram. And I thank you all for being here and sharing a little bit about this story from David. Now, remember there on the chat, answer this question: what does it mean to you that only God knows what is good? What does it mean to you that only God knows what is good? Now, what you think about that answer, what does it mean to you that only God knows what is good? Now, suppose my boss is a real pain. He's really causing me a lot of stress and he's really giving me trouble. So I pass judgment and say my boss or something he has done is bad. By passing judgment on my boss, I am surrendered my peace and handcuff my happiness to my boss because I have defined that my boss is doing something bad. And hence, since my boss is doing something bad, then I am handcuffing myself, handcuffing my happiness, my well being to how my boss reacts. Now, I can't be happy again until either my boss changes or I get a new boss. Similarly, for example, if my kids aren't what I want them to be, and I decide, well, my kids are bad, my kids behave bad, then I'll say, well, what, until they start behaving differently, until they start behaving better, then only then I can be happy, only then I can enjoy my kids. Then I am handcuffing myself to my definition or to my understanding of what is good. And only until somebody else or this person around me defines that what is defined in my head to be good, then only then I can be free. And again, here I salute Nsamba Dan2 on Instagram. He is one of my classmates there in the graduate school at AUP in the Philippines. And thank you so much for being here with us. I'm not sure, where are you right now, and where are you connected from? Are you still in the Philippines? We are here, and I'm with you here from Bangkok, Thailand, and I'm trying to be online and live every single Tuesday at 8 p.m. to discuss topics that have learned through digital missionary work and being able to live a digital missionary life. How we can continue to learn this, and I think that this message here from David is something that is really important, because how we define truth, how we define good, how we define bad, it has a lot to do with how we feel. And when we stop defining what is good, stop judging in ourselves and defining our reality to what is good or to what is bad, then we start allowing ourselves to open our view to what might be possible. It's like that story that I said at the beginning of the man that for everything that happened, he said, well, I don't know what is good or what is bad. Only God knows. So whatever happens in our life, whether it seems to be good or whether it seems to be bad, we do not know. God knows. And by us defining what it is, defining what it should be, then we are constraining the idea or constraining our idea of what it could be because of our own definitions, our own limited view of what the world could be. In other words, I heard a quote once that said, happiness is equal to our reality minus our expectations. And that was an interesting quote for me, because I said, well, it's true. Oftentimes in our lives, we allow whatever is real minus our expectations to define how we feel on who we are and define how we're gonna behave, because my reality is blurred by my expectations or my vision of it. So when we allow people, or even we allow ourselves to define our environment, define what is going on, in that case, we are allowing that definition to limit our capability of achievement, of doing something, whether it is a feeling, an action, a reaction, whatever in our lives, it is constrained by our definition about the reality that we are living in. And this is something very interesting that it helps me a lot to really open up my opportunities around the world and around the internet, especially now that we are living in an internet connected world that is so dynamic, that it changes so rapidly. For example, 2 weeks ago, we were posting on TikTok, and I was telling everybody, all my clients, all my friends, to say, go on TikTok, open a TikTok, post on TikTok every single day, as much as you want, as much as you can. Anything you do, you are brushing your teeth, post it on TikTok. Do something, post it on everything, because that was a reality at the moment. It was something that people were using, that it was carrying forward, and in some markets, it is still the reality. But now, the vision of everything, what we think it is, can limit. We say, oh, maybe it is too hard. Maybe it's too difficult. We say, maybe that is not good. Oh, I have heard that TikTok is only for dancing and for semi-naked women. And we label and we put something that is bad. Or I say, well, how do we define what is bad? Are we able to define what is bad? I wish I could be like David, looking at the face on what's his name, on Shelemi. He was able to say, stop, don't do anything to him, stop, because I don't know if it's good or bad. To everyone around him, he was doing something bad. To everyone around him, he was deserved of death. Shimei, here in 2 Samuel 16, he was throwing rocks and cursing the king. So if David would have allowed the people and his definition of what is good and bad to affect his reality, affect his behavior, affect his feelings, he would have been driven by his definition, by his own definition. But rather he said, wait, step back, think for a second. Maybe this is God. Maybe it is God that is telling Shimei to do this. And this might seem crazy to us. Thank you, Sharon from Indonesia, to sharing with us. Thank you, also my friend Kigalami in Rwanda, in the Central and Adventist University of Central Africa, that is posting their comments here on Instagram. If you are there on YouTube or Facebook or Zoom, answer the question for tonight. What does it mean to you that only God knows what is good and what is bad? And here I see that the experience of David, of being able to say, I don't know if this is good or bad. I don't dare to label what is happening as it's something that is good or bad. I want to allow God to define my reality. And I wonder, how will the world change for me if I allow the things that happen around me to be defined by God? to make the most out of every opportunity, to make the most out of every situation, whether it seems to be bad or good, to make the most out of it. Don't allow the circumstances, don't allow those things to define my opportunities. If somebody will say, no, it's too late for you to get into the YouTube, for you to start doing videos, or maybe you are too ugly, or maybe your accent is bad. Well, that's what people used to tell me, that I cannot do it. Well, don't allow those things to define you. Don't allow what you think is good, what you think is bad, to define your reality. You need to allow God to define your reality. Allow God to define your circumstances, what you are going through. Whatever circumstance, whatever problem, whatever it faces in front of you, allow God to define that and make the most out of it. Today, I wanted to really talk about more how do we grow on TikTok. But because of the circumstances that are going on in the US right now with the ban on TikTok from Donald Trump and the challenges that they are living there and the uncertainty about what's going to happen, I decided to hold on that until a future video. But even that, I say, well, how do we define what is good or bad? Didn't God said, well, everything that is good, everything that is honorable, anything that is for the glory and honor of God, do it. And do it to the best of your ability. Do it to the best that you can. Don't allow the circumstances, don't allow the things around you, don't allow your own perception of what is good or bad to define your feelings, to define your emotions, to define your actions, to define your perspective, to define your life. Allow God to reach out into your life and allow God to be the one that defines your perspective. How it is that next time that when my wife comes and does something that I don't really like, something that I find bad, and I look at her, instead of arguing, I will say, maybe it is God that is talking through her. Maybe it's God that allowing her to talk like that. Maybe it's God that is working. Let us try to see, and how beautiful it might be if we can see God in everything. Because God cannot be defined by us and what He can and He cannot do. He is acting to every single circumstance, to everything that happens, to everything that we do. God is there with us. We cannot put a limit onto what God can and cannot do. So when we are eager to share the gospel, when we say, I have something that has changed my life and I want to share it, that is the Holy Spirit talking in you. That's the Holy Spirit who is awakening that call, that mission to share the gospel of salvation. Don't allow your circumstances, don't allow yourself to define how things should be, but allow God to define them. Allow yourself to try to share with the world in whatever way you can, you deem necessary, or you see possible, whatever opportunity comes your way, that you can see to honor God and do your best. Because I don't know if it's good or I don't know if it's bad. God knows. Don't allow our limitations to see what God can do. If you play games, if you are a hardcore gamer, if you love to spend hours and hours playing Shadow Legends or playing any other game online, don't allow that to define your reality. Share what God has done for you. Find ways. Say, no, God cannot use a killing game to spread the gospel. Well, my friends, there are Adventist channels, Adventist gamers online that are spreading the gospel of salvation on Twitch by playing video games. We cannot define what God can and cannot do. The only thing that God has asked us is to go and spread the message, to share with others what he has done with us. Of course, when it comes, don't twist my words either, and don't say that I'm saying that there's no good, there's no bad. I'm saying that we are not to define our circumstance. We're not to define our life what is good and what is bad. We are to do what God has called us to do. He will never call you to rob a bank. He will never call you to break the Ten Commandments. He will never call you to harm somebody. But He has called you to do everything that's honorable, that is good, that's building, that His glory might be manifested in you. So when you're going online, when you are sweeping through your Instagram, when you are sweeping through all of your social media accounts, allow God to be in your social media account. Allow God to be in your interactions. Don't say, I cannot comment this, I cannot say this, I am afraid of what will happen. This might be good, this might be bad. Allow God to define that with your prayers, with your sincere understanding of sharing the gospel, of sharing the good news of salvation. Go forward. God will find a way working through you. This is something that have helped me to manage many aspects, many stressful situations in my life, to manage my own behavior, my own feelings, to manage my own anger problems. That I define my reality, not based on my expectations, but based on what God can do. That's why I find that quote, happiness equal reality minus expectations, so important. Because we often allow our expectations to hamper our reality, to hamper what God has done for us, to work in us and leave us fearful. But God is saying, don't allow these things to be a problem in your life. Allow God to define your reality. Allow God to work through you. And that this that happened to David in 2 Samuel 16 might be an example to us. Say, we can control our temper, we can control our feelings, we control our behavior, we can control our view of things, we can control how we deal with people. We just need to have the right approach. We just need to say, I don't know what is good, know what is bad. Only knows God. Only God knows. I hope that this can help you as well. And I hope that you can share also your view of what does it mean that only God knows what is good and what is bad. May God continue to help us, may continue to lead us and be with us in everything that we do. May God continue to work through our social media connections, through our online connections, through our face-to-face interactions, that God might be glorified and He continue to be glorified through our works. Again, you can connect with us, connect with me in any of these social media accounts. And I am on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. You have my email address. And I hope that we can have this discussion of what we can do to further the work of God in this digitally connected life. That God may continue to bless us, that God may continue to guide us in everything that we do. It is my prayer that God might touch our lives and through our every experience, He might be glorified and magnified. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And I invite you to join again tonight on this same account, or if you are on different accounts, we are live every single day at 8 p.m. Bangkok time at facebook.com/Trinity AIC, or on our website bangkokadventist.com. And you can connect with us there as well of any of the social media accounts. You can also use them to connect and be part of these social social media lifestyle. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for those that are with us in Zoom. Thank you for those that are with us on Instagram. And thank you for all of us that are in the different social media accounts. May God continue to bless you until tomorrow, until next week. But for now, from my heart to yours, may God bless you and fill you with His Holy Spirit. Until next week. Bye-bye.